In February 2003, a man named Andrew Carlsin appeared on the New York Stock Exchange. He had only $800, and he seemed to be an absolute layman in finance, at least, that's what experienced players thought, watching a beginner invest in several extremely risky assets. Surprisingly, he was lucky, and he multiplied his money. And 2 weeks later, Karlssin again placed bets on other unpopular assets, and hit the jackpot. As a result of 126 investments, Andrew became the owner of a fantastic $350 million. The story of an incredibly lucky newcomer immediately attracted the attention of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. Its representatives contacted the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, and asked to pay special attention to the case of Andrew Carlsin. Everyone was convinced that he was an ordinary swindler and fraudster. When Andrew was arrested and asked how he managed to pull this off, he replied casually that he arrived by a time machine from 2256. He knew in advance which stocks would go up, so he confidently bought them. "I know I should have been more careful," Andrew added. "It's just that when you start earning good money, it's very difficult to stop. I apologize to everyone." Of course, the FBI agents did not believe the suspect. His words sounded ridiculous. But since Karlssin refused to tell anything else about himself, and show the time machine he used, the agents decided to find out for themselves what kind of person he was. They found out that over the previous 3 months, Andrew Carlsin had shown up at several state institutions in New York, rented a car and rented a cheap apartment in a residential area. But that's it. Until December 2002, this man did not seem to exist in the world at all. Hoping to find his relatives or friends, the FBI published Karlssin's portrait in the newspaper. To no avail. Meanwhile, Andrew decided to offer the investigation a deal. He suggests a way to create a cure for cancer and gives out the location of Osama bin Laden, and the special services release him. As a selfless advance, Karlssin even told how the situation on the stock market would develop further. This only angered the FBI. How did this fraudster even dare to laugh at them so audaciously? And suddenly, on April 3, 2003, Andrew disappeared without a trace. It turned out that someone had posted $1 million bail for him. Karlssin was released and disappeared in New York. All of Andrew Carlsin's stock market forecasts have come true exactly. This story has become widely known to the Western public thanks to the French journalist and writer Etienne Cassette, who is working on his new book, When the Past Becomes the Future. The time machine accidentally stumbled upon a curious article in a Mexican newspaper. It was about a mysterious incident on a train traveling from Mexico City to Acapulco. A young surgeon and a woman with a child were peacefully riding in their compartment, when suddenly the door opened, and a terrified man with round eyes appeared in front of them. He was dressed in an antique doublet, and the powdered wig on his head was terribly disheveled. In one hand the stranger held a goose feather, and in the other a large leather purse. "I am Minister Jorge de Balenciaga," he shouted desperately. And then he looked around in fear and, lowering his voice, imploringly asked the shocked passengers, "Where am I?" The surgeon managed to slip out of the compartment to call the conductor for help. However, when he returned back, the mysterious stranger had already disappeared. It would seem that another city lunatic, what to take from him. However, everything turned out to be a little more complicated. The surgeon discovered that a man who introduced himself as Minister Jorge de Balenciaga had dropped his pen and wallet in a panic. They were lying on the floor of the compartment, in the very place where he appeared. These items looked as outlandish as the stranger's outfit. Therefore, the surgeon decided to show them to historians. It turned out that both the pen and the purse were produced in the 18th century, but for some inexplicable reason they were preserved in almost perfect condition. This intrigued the surgeon even more. And he decided to find out if there really was a man named Jorge de Balenciaga. After spending a few days in the archives, he came across documents with a curious postscript from the then bishop, from which it followed that Minister de Balenciaga had finally gone mad at an advanced age. Jorge told everyone how one day, returning home in the dead of night, he saw right in front of him an iron, long, like a snake, devil's carriage, bursting with fire and smoke. After that, the minister found himself inside this monstrous machine. He was surrounded by strangely dressed people, and Jorge came to the conclusion that they were Satan's minions. The minister started screaming like a madman in a panic and running around the cars. Then a logical thought occurred to him: Satanists should be afraid of the Holy Scriptures. He closed his eyes and said a prayer. And the next second, a miracle happened. He found himself back on one of the streets of Mexico City in his own time. The bishop added that despite the fact that an exorcism rite was performed over the minister several times, the unfortunate man never returned to his right mind until his death.